When I started this channel, I wondered what I would do if a project just went very wrong. Should I still show you? Should I hide the mistakes and hope I'm the only one that ever knows? Or do I make it a dramatic disaster story because hyperbole can make anything fun? It all started one day when I was watching Rachel Maksy make some cute autumn clothes, and
you say fast and easy, but I don't believe you. Huh? I don't understand.
I bought that pattern in about a second flat because it was also 9 layers of intriguing, and it looked like the kind of simple pattern that I could easily twist into becoming a complicated and hilarious adventure into the sewing underworld. Super easily, actually, because here's the fabric I decided to use. And I accidentally bought the pattern in not exactly my size. There's just not a lot of time to read details in a second flat. I did make a mock-up, which is just slapping the dress together out of cheap fabric you don't care about, and is a very smart thing to do, but I'm usually too impatient, too lazy, or just too heroically confident in getting it right the first time. I made a mock-up this time, and I changed the entire hemline because impulse control is for people who don't buy sweaters based solely on whether or not Maple Pines would wear them, so definitely not for me. It worked out fine. I just needed to make a little adjustment in the shoulders and at the waist, but otherwise it was golden. I ended up with these 4 pieces. Well, not really ended, more like middled. Very close to began because, well, little did I know, but I was just getting started. I pinned these mock-up pieces to very large sheets of paper and cut out brand new pattern pieces. They looked so big and so blank that I decided to draw all over them in broad, pleasing strokes, a beautiful fractured gem pattern. I was planning to cut along each line and turn these 4 pattern pieces into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Hang on a minute. It occurred to me right here, in this exact moment, that this might be a problem. It was partly the number of awkward corners that I was going to have to sew, and it was mostly the vast multitude of pieces that I was proposing that I needed to cut out, keep track of, not sew to the wrong piece by accident. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I decided to just slash the pattern pieces into a handful of rectangles and squares. A handful being 26. They're flat. I can still fit them in one hand. That's the definition of handful, right? I named my fabrics to help me keep track of them, then laid out all my pattern pieces, planning, arranging, negotiating for way too long, until I had decided exactly which patterns would go where to make sure none of them ended up next to the exact same pattern. I laid the paper pieces out on my fabric wherever it felt like they fit best, despite whatever cute, fluffy, or clawed obstacles I might have encountered. It's fine. I would fight them, but sometimes it's better to just wait out the house monsters. I started cutting out my pieces and kept cutting out my pieces because it takes, well, apparently it takes a couple minutes and a couple clones to cut out 26 pieces, but that's okay because it really gave me time to think about, well, a lot of things. Like how narcissus and daffodils are the same thing. Did you know that? I had no idea, and now it kind of cracks me up because I was thinking that narcissus were so fancy and they're just daffodils. It greatly improves a couple of Greek myths for me. And just imagine if Draco Malfoy's mom was Daffy Malfoy. Also, did you know that human bones naturally contain a teeny tiny bit of gold? Anyway, I put all my pieces out in order again, then grabbed the first 2 pieces, braced myself, and started sewing. It was actually really simple. Pin and then sew a straight line, so I'm really not sure why I felt the need to brace myself. Maybe I had an inkling of what was ahead, a feeling of being watched by a great black dog. Which is weird because all I've got is this white cat, who seems to have no idea that he really doesn't want to be ironed. No, dude, it doesn't matter how much you like the worms. But if my fabric was sentient, it would want to be ironed because it's gonna look just that much neater. Don't we all just want people to think we're neat? Maybe I should have said I would look fabulous? Are there important things you need to know about sewing a patchwork dress? Sure. 1, it's a really good idea to think ahead and do all the shortest seams before the longest ones so you don't have any awkward moments trying to sew these lines after you've sewn these lines. 2, stay vigilant because you never know when I got to the middle seam in the skirt piece and came to an abrupt stop because I had forgotten a crucial piece that needed to get sandwiched in the middle there. The pocket! I cut out 4 pocket-shaped pieces, saved 2 of them for later, pinned the other 2 to either side, and sewed them in. I ironed them open like little wings, laid them on top of each other, and pinned all the way around the pocket, as well as at the bottom, at the end of the seam, and at the very top. Then I sewed the pocket halves together, and ta-da! Now I have a place to keep my secrets. I sewed on the last piece of the skirt half, ironed the seam open nice and flat and pretty, and then I had one of my 4 original pieces fully constructed. 1/4 of a dress. Maybe 1/4 of a calamity. I laid out the second skirt half and started all over again. This is a fairly repetitive process at this stage. Feels a little more like quilting than making a dress, mostly because I actually spent more time pinning and ironing than sewing. Which, okay, I'm not going to tell you that I hate this process, but it's definitely not my favorite way to, sew. But repetition is nice. Solid 6 out of 10. Might do it again, might complain about it again. I did the same thing with the back of the bodice and thought that I had found a really cool camera angle where you could see everything but the ironing, but mostly it's just a really good shot of Mr. Meow, so enjoy him and just imagine the continued, thoughtful, peaceful loop of pinning, sewing, ironing, pinning, sewing, ironing. Try not to think of it as a circle, winding and tightening, drawing me ever deeper. Before I could sew together the front of the dress, I needed to sew some darts, so I grabbed my magic pen. I'm not a big fan of darts. They look simple, they should be simple, but they have this weird habit of uncooperatively slithering into a spot that I absolutely did not give them permission to go. The best defense is my magic pen with the cool ink that disappears with heat. I can just draw the darts straight onto my fabric exactly where they need to be, and can you give me just a moment?
No, anywhere but there. Come on.
Anyway, magic pen, mightier than the darts. I just drew them in, some of them fun little triangle darts, some of them these, I think they call them double darts, or double the treble darts, and then I pinned them in half like this, making sure that the pins went through the lines on both sides and sewed straight down the line. That's one down and, oh, kind of a lot to go. Okay, so the trick to doing this as quickly as possible is actually the same trick you use when playing darts, and it's very simple. Just use as much force as possible. Lob it, pitch it, hurl it, chuck it, forget accuracy, and just go for speed. Anyway, that's how I lose at darts. Very quickly. I'm just gonna take my time here and do it right. At the end, I ironed them to get rid of all the pen marks, finished sewing together the front of the dress, and all 4 pieces were constructed. All 4 horsemen of the dress apocalypse. Ready, almost ready, to drag me across the river Styx. Just waiting to be put together. So of course I started putting them together. I pinned the 2 skirt pieces together at the back, pinned the 2 skirt pieces of the mock-up together as well, because after all these patchwork pieces, I decided the easiest way to clean up all the edges was to hide them behind a lining, and the easiest lining was the mock-up. It's the perfect if I can't see it, it can't see me solution. I took the skirt lining and the skirt, stacked them right sides together, and then pinned them all the way around the bottom edge. Longest seam of the project, and it was kind of nice. Like after all those short little patchwork seams, it felt good. Like so good in fact that I understitched the lining and sewed all the way around a second time. Aw, thank you. And that's when it happened. I had constructed enough of the dress to pin it all together, take a peek, and it did not make a good first impression. I didn't love it. I wasn't sure I liked it. I might have hated it, and I wasn't even sure why. I went to bed. The next morning, I didn't hate it, I might have loved it. A couple hours later, I might have hated it again. Worked on it some more, sort of liked it, put it down and came back, hating it. But I was so close to finishing it that it didn't really seem like there was anything else to do but just get it done. Just finish it, push forward. I attached the back of the bodice to the skirt, then sewed the front of the dress on at the shoulders. The pattern said to do all the finishing work just by sewing bias tape around all the raw edges, which is quick, easy, and in perfect serendipity is the exact level of effort that I had the motivation for, considering my roller coaster opinions on this dress.
Okay, so I actually need to turn this. Can I politely request that you find someplace else to sit? Excellent, thank you.
To close the dress in the back, I sewed a little bias tape loop and a button to the front panel of the dress, and to close the dress in the front, I sewed 3 snaps into the back panel of the dress, which doesn't sound like it can be right at all, but I mean, have a look for yourself. You'll have to tell me whether or not you think this dress works. Yeah, no, we're not leaving it here.